hi everyone, this is Vicky, who's joining us today, and she's going to be talking about sober socials, sharing a little bit about her story, her experience with, is it just alcohol or addictions in general?
It is alcohol, but our members do have other addictions as well, but mainly
Yeah.
alcohol. Yeah,
Really alcohol.
yeah,
And then obviously just touching a little bit more about like the members, what kind of people obviously join her community. And if you obviously want to join as well, then we'll be sharing all of our links at the end anyway. So I'm just going to literally put it straight over to Vicky and just say, start wherever feels comfortable, wherever whatever comes out of your mouth, we'll start there.
Fab, thank you. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm Vicky, and I started Sober Socials, which is a social group, does what it says on the tin, for people who are either totally sober, so have completely given up alcohol, or are sober curious, so are kind of wanting to reduce their consumption, wanting to make positive change, but aren't quite there yet. And this community hopefully will help them to see that actually there is a life outside of drinking. You don't become boring and have to stay in. And so hopefully it supports those people who aren't quite sure. So yeah, sober and sober curious. And it's a Facebook page. And like I say, I set it up a year ago. The reason being there wasn't a lot in Newcastle for people who had given up the booze or people who were thinking about giving up the booze. And I really needed to find connections. I needed to find people who got it, who understood some of the challenges, understood some of the benefits, and could kind of be a bit of a cheerleader to each other, and a bit of accountability for each other as well. So I set up the Facebook group, which will give the links at the end so people can join if they want to, if they're interested. And we meet. We have a huge event section, and anyone can host. So I host the majority, but anybody can, and we do all kinds, crazy things like walking 20 miles and wild swimming and all that kind of thing, but also just meeting for brunch, and
Yeah.
lunch, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that. And obviously, one of the main things you said was that um, the community is so important. And I think like a lot of
Totally,
people who maybe are thinking about getting off alcohol, they try and do it alone, don't they? They'll try, or they haven't got the support there. And
absolutely.
then that's how a lot of the time
Yeah,
they cave. There's nothing to like stick that focus to and have that
totally.
accountability.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
I think it's one of those things that you can't do it alone inside your own head. You can't, you need some support. And so we have got members who go to AA who are in different recovery programs, but we've also got people like me who were much more grey area drinking, where I wouldn't define as an alcoholic. I wasn't drinking during the day. It wasn't impacting my work. I didn't necessarily have a rock bottom moment, but actually I knew that alcohol was taking a lot more from me than it was given, and there's quite a lot of our members like that. And there isn't necessarily support net for grey area drinkers, for those
Yeah,
people that are in the middle. And so, you can very easily Google, "I'm an alcoholic." Oh, well, no, I'm not. Oh, okay, I'll just crack on the way I was. But actually, that three gins a night, or even just one glass of wine a night, is having an impact. So actually finding a community that get that, that
yeah.
understand that, is really, really important.
Mhm. And I love that you just said that, like that great area, because like I didn't even think of anything like that. So it's amazing that there's something out there that you've created, because you would imagine people going, well, I'm not an alcoholic because,
Yeah,
I'm not like waking up and having like a vodka for my breakfast
absolutely.
and drinking loads. Or if they were going to go and get AA help, have you got to maybe be referred to that?
Well, and this
Like,
is
or
it.
can you self-refer?
I think, well, most of my members, and I'm not 100% on this, I think have self-referred, and we do have lots of members in AA, and it's fantastic. It's saved billions of people. It
Yeah,
just wasn't, I'm a huge fan, but it just wasn't the place for me, actually.
yeah,
Um, and just having this community where you can be really honest about the challenges that comes with being sober, and just someone to kind of keep you going when those cravings are difficult. And when you're not invited out by your friends because I think, well, Vicky won't want to go because we're going to a pub. And that has happened to me. I have lost friends. I've gained
yeah,
many friends through sober socials. But I have lost friends, people whose perception is, well, you're boring now. And I
yeah,
have had people say that to me. I preferred you better when you drink, when you drank. And I
yeah,
thought, well, I liked you more when you drank as well.
yeah.
Sorry, you were more bearable when
More
when
bearable
I was
when
drinking.
you were drunk.
So yeah, so I've kind of come back with that retort, but you do lose friends, unfortunately. People,
Mhm.
you do fall off their social
I guess
radar when
it's
you don't
because
drink.
for some people that alcohol is that what they have in common, isn't it? That commonality where
Yeah,
they go, right, we go out to drink together, but now you don't drink. Well, oh, what have we got in common or what?
yeah,
But I think as well, some people probably feel like they don't want to identify going to A&E as an alcoholic. Maybe they're not
yeah,
ready to
yeah,
admit and go, oh, I've got a problem, but they might have that niggly suspicion. So I definitely think your group could be like that first
yeah,
tester point of, right, let me
absolutely.
just, with no judgment and no labels put on them, I guess.
Definitely, that's it. You know, you don't have to have fully stopped to be part of the group. You don't have to promise a lifetime of sobriety at all. And you don't have to define as an alcoholic. You can be anywhere on that spectrum and you're welcome. And I was sober curious for a long time, trying desperately to cut down, but thinking if I do, who am I? What will I do? What will happen to my friendship group? So I kept drinking, and just knowing that there is support there, there's people that get it,
Mhm.
can be the catalyst that gets people to say, right, that's it. I'm actually going to put down that wine now for good. And
Yeah.
that's really why I set up the group. And it's just wonderful to have people around you who you can share some of your troubles with, and they understand because they've been there.
Hmm. So whereabouts are you based? Are you Newcastle or
So
Northwest?
I'm Gosforth,
Mhm.
and our members mostly come from kind of the Newcastle area, but we do have people from south of the Tyne. We do have people in Durham. It's open to anybody. Lots of our events happen in the city centre or swimming at the coast.
Mhm.
But if you're prepared to travel, I try and get as many events as possible across the northeast. So we're called Newcastle Sober Socials, but anyone in the region is welcome to join, and we do try and be as inclusive, and we
Yeah.
car share and all kinds of things to make it accessible for
Mhm.
people.
That sounds good. And do you like do stuff online as well, like tasks, challenges, or just chats?
We haven't, we don't. At Christmas, we kind of did a something to think about every day around sobriety. But I am going to start doing some Zoom sessions where we have kind of people from the sober world or the kind of the well-being world come and do talks for us.
Oh
So
yeah.
that is coming soon for people that perhaps think I'm a little bit too shy to go to an event with people I've never met, but I'll be okay sitting in front of my screen with my camera off, listening to other people talk. So I think we will do that going
Yeah.
forward. So I guess it's important to note that kind of myself and the admins that run it, we're not sober coaches, we're not qualified in therapy or anything like that. We're all sober and we want to help.
Yeah, so you're all basically like on a similar path, aren't you?
Yeah,
Just kind of created this community for like-minded people,
yeah,
I guess, to come on board
totally.
and stuff as well. So
Yeah,
no, that sounds great. And I mean, I definitely have experienced like people in my life who have struggled. Um, and me personally, like I was never a big drinker because I used to like work on a weekend, sing on a weekend
yeah,
and stuff. So I missed so many things anyway. But I did like a drink when I used to go out. But then when COVID hit, that's when I see myself spiral and
yeah.
couldn't sing, couldn't work, lost massive chunk of
Pause.
myself. And I started doing kitchen lives. I don't know if you ever watched any singers doing that on
Yeah, I
Facebook.
did. I did. They were great. I bet you
Yeah.
were fab.
Yeah, it was, I think it was such a great idea to do.
Yeah,
And a lot of
totally.
people tuned in and felt like they were like, and the energy, like I felt it as well, even though I was on my own in the kitchen.
Yeah,
I felt the energy, so it kept us going. But then I started doing this thing called like Wine Wednesday. So like I'd do a live on a Wednesday and I'd have me bottle of wine.
yeah,
And then it got to like then a Saturday I'd start having a bottle of wine. Normally I'd be singing and I started having a bottle of wine on a Saturday. So it got to become like 2 bottles of wine a week that I never used to do.
yeah, yeah,
Put on a few stone through COVID, which I'm still yet even struggling to get back to. And the wine now is probably like 1 bottle a week.
yes. Yeah,
I feel like I can take it or leave it.
that's good.
But at the same time, when it gets to that Wednesday, I get that feeling of like,
Yeah, which is not
I
uncommon.
really, really want a bottle of wine because I'm so used to that being my way to wind down. And I
Yeah,
think there's other ways, but I've got accustomed to
absolutely.
enjoying a
Yeah.
bottle of wine on a Wednesday.
And you're not alone. I think most people would be able to identify with that, and particularly COVID and how people that probably thought they were take it or leave it drinkers,
Yeah,
actually their drinking
a little bit relying.
escalated definitely. So for me, I'd always been, a bit of a hedonist, last girl at the party, liked to drink. But it was when my mum died. She died really suddenly, and it was in
I'm
a pretty
sorry.
traumatic accident. And I'm an only child, and we were very close, lived around the corner. And my way of coping was to drink, and to
Mhm.
drink heavily, because because actually nobody had taught me, or I hadn't learned any of the coping mechanisms. I didn't know how to manage stress and grief and anxiety without wine. And
Yeah.
actually, when I looked at it, I didn't know how to celebrate without wine. I didn't know how to commiserate or grieve without wine. I didn't know how to unwind without wine. I didn't know how to not be bored without wine.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like, hang on a second, I am completely controlled by this poison, this ethanol. I need to do something about it. Like if I try to say to myself, like you do when you're trying to stop, I won't have a gin and tonic tonight, I'd be sitting on my hands. So I'd like,
Yeah.
I'm bored, I'm gonna go to bed. I don't know how to enjoy myself after work now without that gin. And I just thought something's got to change. And it
Mhm.
was impacting my mental health. Um, I do a job where I'm kind of front facing, I present to people, and I was getting terrible anxiety. I
Mm.
still get anxiety. I was really nervous to come on here.
Yeah, I know you would be too.
But I can manage it now. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people don't make the correlation between anxiety and mental health and alcohol. And actually, it's a vicious cycle. You have it because you feel anxious and sad, but it's
Mhm.
perpetuating those
Yeah.
feelings of anxiety and depression.
Mhm.
But of course, if you don't know what you don't know, so that knowledge isn't out there. And so when I cut down, when I eventually stopped, I just noticed that my happiness levels increased, and that
Yeah.
wasn't something I expected, but it's a great, a happy outcome
Mhm.
from not drinking.
Yeah, and that's a great story as well. So it's like, thanks for sharing that as well. And I think for me as well, the boredom part you just mentioned there, sometimes you're bored. Um, I'm constantly consumed with things mentally. And then when I try and stop, my mind just keeps going. And so I do feel like that having that bottle of wine on a
Yeah,
Wednesday is
yeah,
time to, and my brain gets the memo because that's how I've conditioned myself
totally.
to
Absolutely.
rely
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
And I used to say, and food then becomes an issue as well because you've had a drink, then you
Uh-huh.
want a bit of food. And then I
Uh-huh.
was like, I feel like actually this is the only thing that brings me any sort of joy right now. And I
Yeah,
went through
I
a
get
stage of
that.
feeling like that. But then I suppose it's knowing that there is other things out there. You've just got to get off your backside, I guess, and actively look. And I would imagine that your group kind of is a little bit of
Yeah.
that, like meeting up and having that community, like, or sitting in and drinking on your own with a bottle of wine, if you're like
And
big
a lot
drunk.
of yeah, and a lot of my drinking was actually, as I got older and I wasn't out partying anymore, was sitting on my own.
Yeah,
And I think what people, they concentrate so much on, I need to stop drinking, but actually then need to think about what do I put back into my life when I take
yes,
alcohol out. So that's where sober socials and other groups come into their own, because you have to find out what lights you up. You're not sitting having a drink as a reward or to make you happy. So you need to find things now that make you feel, get that genuine dopamine hit. For me,
yeah.
it was, and this is not uncommon when you give up smoking as well, it was a big bag of family pack of Maltesers. That's what my sugar went to replace the alcohol straight. But then once you get over that, it's actually, where can I get some of that real natural high from? And for
Yeah.
me, that was jumping in the North Sea. It's not for everybody. It was going out for long walks and just kind of starting to really, I used to walk with my head down, hungover,
Mhm.
feeling sad. Now I kind of look up and look for just those small things in life that make you smile, just those glimmers, all the things that they tell you should do to make yourself feel better. You're just more aware. And it can be hard. One of the hardest things is sitting with your feelings, because you can't take the edge off, you can't numb. So that is by far and away the most difficult thing about giving up alcohol. But it's
Mhm.
worth it. It's like anything, you've just got to practice, you've got to dig deep,
Mhm.
and
And I
get
get and I guess it's a phase anyway, isn't it? So when you're having them feelings and you do sit through it, it's like at the end of the tunnel, isn't it? So it's probably
yeah,
important for people to like see them. And you mentioned like grief before. And I actually did a podcast with a lady about grief, and
right.
she's coming on because I'm doing like a live Let's Talk out loud
Mhm.
session in my community, and she's going to come on and talk about grief because I think that's one of the big things like nobody's prepared for. Nobody knows what happens to your body. Like I lost my dad. It'll be a year coming up the 7th of August, so that's why I'm kind of doing the talk as well about grief.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but that kind of come out, and so that for the 2 weeks solid, I mean, the drinking did
hmm
raise. I did kind of want to numb a little bit, but then I
yeah,
also was sitting thinking, people have told us to do this and that this is going to happen, so I need to just allow it. So I did try. I cried when I needed to cry. I didn't
yeah,
hold it in, but the drink definitely helped in that moment because it was too painful without it. And
Yeah,
that is quite a sad thing, that you need that external thing to numb. Um,
yeah,
but if anyone else does do that, is it like a phase just to try and kind of get out of it as quick as you can? Otherwise, it
definitely.
just can you can go down a spiral, can't you?
You can definitely, and I think it is just about like choose your hard. So giving up alcohol, giving up any addiction is hard.
Mhm,
Whether you were, defined as an alcoholic or whether you're grey area, it is hard. But I always thought choose your hard. So actually being hungover and anxious and miserable and overweight, and I had a small life. I drank on my own and then I was hungover. I didn't do anything. My life was small.
mhm.
That was hard. Now, so yes, getting over the cravings and finding who I am when I'm not the party girl, when I'm not actually as extroverted as I thought. I'm actually much more introverted. That was the
Yeah.
booze talking. Um, it is difficult, but I chose that hard because that was teeny tiny compared to how I was living my life, and those cravings pass,
Mhm,
and I rarely get them now. I've been kind of sober since 2021. I have fallen off the wagon at one point, but
mhm,
I've got a good long stint now, and it does pass and it becomes the norm that you're not drinking. But having a community is so important. It's a
mhm,
crucial tool in your sober toolbox to
mhm.
have people that understand you. And even if you just join the group and you sit on the edges and you listen and see the chit chat, because we talk a lot as well as meeting up, there's always conversations on the group. That can be a game changer actually.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you know what you've just said, like about choosing your hard? So when I'm doing like talk sessions and I say like, there's always a sacrifice for something. There's no matter what
Yeah,
you
there
do when you
is.
choose in life, there's a sacrifice, isn't there? So it's like if I want to be super fit, I might have to, like, cut down on the foods that are tasty. I might have to go to the gym or do long walks. And even though at the time you think, oh, I can't be bothered, it's that element of choosing your hard, isn't it?
It
And
is
I've got my
definitely.
board above my head now, and it's one of my favourite quotes, and it's the pain of regret will always outweigh the pain of discipline. And
Yeah,
that's similar, isn't it? So
yeah,
like you can either choose your hard now, but then you're going to be like rewarded in the long term,
yeah,
or if you are, easy, quick fix, don't mean hits, you're going to pay for the hard in the long term, and it's going to be even
yeah.
worse. So that's just what come to mind when you were talking
No,
about.
it's absolutely that. It works for all kinds of different situations. But
Mhm.
yeah, I just thought I'm gonna ride out the cravings. I'm gonna ride out the losing friendships. I'm gonna ride out the sugar addiction and the weight gain because in the long run, I'm actually fitter, healthier, and happier. And
Yeah,
I would never have had the confidence when I was drinking, Vicky, to have set up a group, a social
yeah,
group, and being a founder of something, I have nearly 850 members. I would never in a million years have thought that I could do that. I would never have thought I could come on a podcast and talk to you. That would have been, absolutely no way.
yeah.
Those limiting beliefs were really strong when I was drinking. And
Mhm.
now that I'm not, and I'm not saying it's a panacea, give up booze and your life changes and it's all flowers and rainbows and unicorns. That's not true. But it's been an upgrade for me. I think, and you've got to kind of change your mindset to what am I losing to what will I gain? What am I go?
Yeah,
I get to give up booze. I get to get up early. I get to go while swimming. I get to not have hangovers rather than, oh, I've got to stop drinking. I don't really want to. It's just really about kind of changing how you see the world and
mhm,
seeing it as a positive. And I would urge anyone who is maybe thinking, oh, maybe I've got a little bit of an issue with alcohol to join the group. Um,
mhm.
and just believe that actually there is a world out there where you're not drinking in a pub
Yeah,
every
you're not feeling
weekend.
like you're needing it and stuff. So what was the absolute turning point for you? Because I know obviously you said you suffered grief, but that kind of catapulted you a bit.
Yeah.
What was the turning point where you were like, right, that's it? Like, what? Talk us through
Yeah.
that.
So like I said, I didn't have any particular rock bottom, in that I didn't kind of lose my job or get a DUI or anything like that. I wasn't kind of caught drinking at work or anything. It was I was the naughty one in the relationship. So I'm married to a lovely guy called Chris, who was my rock, and I was pulling him down. I'm the bad influence.
Ah,
And he turned to me in COVID where you haven't got the same routines, and he turned and he said, "Do you know what, Vicky? We're more drunk than we are sober as a general rule." And I just thought, oh wow, he's
mhm.
right. And that made me go, I need to do something about this. And also, just at the back of my mind, for several months, I'd thought I can't go a day without a gin. So, although I could stop and I didn't have any of the kind of tremors, I didn't need a program with my doctor. So, even though I didn't have that physical dependency, I had that habit that I needed to have a drink. And those two things made me think I must do something now, because, okay, I haven't got rock bottom yet. And that was the thing, I haven't lost my job yet.
Yeah. So is
Um,
that fear of where's this going? And that because it sounds like you've just had that like light bulb moment, isn't it? Where you've kind of
yeah,
become a bit aware and went, wow, like, and stopped
it,
in your tracks.
definitely.
Hmm.
And kind of seeing the weight gain and the bloated face, seeing the physical impact. And the fact that nobody knew. If I'd asked my best friend, if I'd said to them, "Do you think I've got a problem?" They would have gone, I don't know what you're talking about. You just have a few drinks when we're out." So
Yeah.
nobody knew. And I think that realization, as I'm checking out every night in my kitchen with a bottle of wine, um, that nobody was going to come to save us. Nobody knew outside of
Yeah.
my husband what was going on. So if I was going to do something about it, I needed to do it now, and I needed to do it. I needed to sort myself
Mhm.
out. And those were kind of the things that made me realize, right, you've
Yeah.
got to make a change. And I didn't go to AA or a recovery program, but I used Ola Sober, which again, might be useful to put that link
Hmm.
on the website, because they're free, like AA is, and they
Yeah.
have meetings over Zoom. They're all across the world, and they were kind of a lifesaver for me, in that we kind of really talked about how you get over your cravings, and a bit of a kick up the butt as well, to, you are responsible for your life, so this is what you're going to have to do to sort it out. So they were a brilliant organization, and actually it was all a sober, and all of the kind of confidence I got from that made me think, I'm going to do something similar in a local
Yeah.
setting, so where people can actually meet physically, as opposed to
Hmm.
over the internet. So yeah,
Yeah. Because I guess as well, if you're going for help with someone like that and they're giving you kind of the knowledge and the tools right there and then, and you've got someone to kind of speak to and report to, and then that stops, then that's where the danger lies, isn't it? Of like falling back into old habits.
yeah,
So I can see totally why you've like thought, right, I'm gonna start this group, and how it's obviously helped as well along the way.
yeah. I think you can. You think you're cured, and that's when I fell off the wagon. I'd done a full year, and I thought, I think I'll be able to moderate now. Mm-mm. No, I cannot. I could for a little while,
Yeah.
but
So
it
what
was all
happened?
consuming.
What happened with that?
So I thought, I'm cured. I can moderate, and I was quite good at it to start with. But I thought about it all the time. I'll have a beer, and then I'll have a soft drink, and then I'll have a beer, and I must, or I'll start with a soft drink, so I don't, once I have a beer, then I might not want the soft drink after.
Yeah.
I'll only drink on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or I'll only drink on a Saturday. I won't drink on a Sunday. All consuming, putting these rules in place. And of course, once you've had a couple, all of those promises to yourself go out the window. And it
Yeah.
slowly started to be that I was drinking, not quite the same level, but I would have had I continued. And I thought, right, no, there is no cure for someone like you. You can't moderate, so you need to go back to being sober. And
Yeah.
actually, it was great, because then I didn't have to think about booze anymore. It was like, right, no more rules, no more thinking about it. I just don't drink. Even if
Mhm.
my butt's on fire, I do not drink. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's actually been easier in terms of my head space,
Hmm.
giving up. So
Yeah, and it's good that you said, obviously you mentioned your partner's like really supportive and stuff.
very,
As well, and he was the one, I guess, as well, that
yeah,
catalysted, is that even a word?
it
Was
is
the
now.
catalyst that kind of said that. So I guess sometimes it is just somebody to say something to snap you like back to reality, isn't it?
Yeah, I was really lucky
Mm.
that Chris could see that things were
There was a
spiraling out of
problem.
control.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually he's just given up alcohol now as well. So
Yeah. Oh,
that's
well
that's
done.
brilliant.
Yeah, good for you, I know, because imagine
Yeah.
that. Oh God. So with you talking about, obviously, like you're not a professional in a space of, or a therapist or anything. Obviously, with we're talking about this, the nature of the podcast, it's probably worth me mentioning to people as well, because my friend used to work, I don't know if it was AA, but it was sport alcohol addictions and stuff. that it can be really dangerous to stop. So to
Absolutely.
say,
Yeah.
if anybody is thinking about stopping, definitely join the group, because I'm sure there'll be people in there that have got a little bit more experience and advice as well anyway from there. So
Yeah.
definitely, if you are a heavy drinker and you do have a problem where you're getting the trimmers or whatever,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
relying, it can be dangerous just to stop.
But
So I
yeah,
just
it
wanted
can.
to mention that weaning's definitely the best way. And I guess
Yeah.
if you have got a major problem, but you probably don't want that label of going to the AA, then your group still would be probably a first place to go anyway. Like you said, they can watch and they can
Yeah.
see what people's lives are like after they've kind of stopped,
Definitely.
to
That
give them
that
some hope, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are lots of recovery groups and paid groups that can help you kind of quit drinking. So you could be a member of Sober Socials, but also be in a recovery program,
Mm.
or in a, working with a sober coach as well. They work really well together. But yeah, absolutely. If you a heavy drinker and you feel like you've got a physical dependency, absolutely see your doctor before you do anything, because they will put a program in place for you to wean yourself off safely.
Yeah, and I guess as well, like like going to someone professional, because if you've got alcohol problem and you do kind of stop, the reason that you started drinking in the first place, because sometimes it's just a habit that creeps in, like
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
It just creeped
yeah,
in. But sometimes people do it to mask the feelings that they don't want to face, that we've touched on. And this can be something that's been a trauma in
yeah,
their life that they
yeah,
just cannot process. Um, so I think for something like that, it is worth not just trying to look to stop alcohol, but getting that help that you need to
yeah,
go through that process, because it can be really painful.
yeah,
In the mental side of that, like that, the negative, dark thoughts that come in, like I'm not worthy, I'm not loved, I don't want to be here, and all that kind of stuff that probably come in, needs to be, I guess, addressed. And there's different
yeah,
methods to do that,
yeah,
like the trauma release, and the talking therapies and all that kind of stuff. And on this podcast, I may as well add that the group that I've got, the Let's Talk Out Loud, which is what I'm hosting this from, I'm going to have talkers in there from different areas of mental health, anxiety, depression, trauma, so that people can get support in the group that I've got as well. So
yeah,
do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
same with your group, if there's anybody that wants to come over, or if there's anybody I know that I can send to you for your group to
fab.
say, can you go and talk to Vicky's people? Just to kind of give people that understanding on the chemistry behind it as well, and that when you're trying to
Yeah,
stop something, how your brain really tries everything in its power to
yeah,
get what you want, and that trying just to stop it is actually psychologically hard. It's not just because you're lacking willpower. It
no,
is the chemicals in your brain. It's really, really hard, and you'll
it
do
is.
anything to get that thing. And there's a way to kind of combat that. There's definitely ways. And one of them I would definitely say is, which I've learned, is to interrupt. So what I do, because I've also got a thing with food, which can be a massive addiction
Yeah,
that isn't talked about as well, is if I go to, like, if I'm having a trigger and having that trauma response to something, I'll go for food and it helps regulate my emotions. And that's, I know, not good. So there's a thing you can do where you go, right, and it's like an intervention, and you go, I'm going to allow myself to have that toffee crisp, but first I'm going to go outside, I'm going
yeah,
to take 10 deep breaths. And what it does is it kind of interrupts that
yeah,
impulsive compulsion that you've got to just, because I'll do it and then I'll afterwards go, why did I do that? And then the guilt
yeah,
comes in. And so if you kind of interrupt yourself and then you go out, by the time you've calmed yourself down and you've
yeah.
interrupted that, then you go, actually, I'm all right now. Like
Totally.
I don't really need it.
No, I walked for miles when I gave up alcohol in a
Mm.
similar way that you're describing. I've got a craving. I'm desperate to open that bottle, or go to the shop and get one because I'd cleaned my house out. No, go for a walk.
Yeah.
Get something in your ears. Get the dog. Go. So
Mm.
you're absolutely right. Finding ways to deal with those cravings, and finding things that distract and make you happy are
Mhm.
absolutely essential. You're right. It's not
Mhm.
just giving up. It's what strategies can you put in place to support that.
To
And
help.
I had therapy, and that was really important because I needed to know how to cope with grief without alcohol, how to cope with a difficult day without alcohol, and I needed someone professional to help me with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. So is there anything else that you would like to share, like obviously with your junior, that you think's important to kind of cover?
No,
Um,
I think this has been fantastic. Thank you
yeah.
for giving us the opportunity to to talk as much and
Yeah.
promote the group. But I would just say to people, if you're sober or sober curious, give us a look and join the Facebook group.
No, definitely. And obviously, thank you for coming on. And it just goes to show, even though you said you were nervous, you just didn't look at it all. And you spoke
I
really well.
am.
No, you've done really, really well. So obviously,
Thank
thank
you.
you for putting yourself out there and coming on, obviously sharing your story and obviously what you're doing, which I think is amazing. So thank you for coming on. And like I said at
Thank
the
you.
beginning, or any links, the Sober Socials link and the other one you mentioned,
Yeah,
that
all
you
are sober. Yeah.
yes, I'll put them in the description. And then if anybody wants to join Sober Socials and even reach out to Vicky,
Yeah,
and
sure.
she'll be in the position to kind of advise where to go in that group. And hopefully you can jump in the North Sea
Yeah, come and jump in the
with,
sea with
with
us.
Vicky as well. So thank you so, so much, Vicky. And obviously we'll keep in touch anyway. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much.